All right, we're live, pals. Welcome to the Brace for Impact Rebellion Post Show. Sorry, I just got fumbled up already. The Rebellion Post Show here on the Fight Game Media Network, right here on our YouTube channel. My name is Mike Gilbert, and I'm your host tonight. And I'm here alongside my co-host, as always, JD by God Oliva. How you doing, JD?
Very good, man. How you doing?
Doing great, man. And then we got our friend back. We got Jeremy Finestone back. He's the one that kind of kickstarted us into the podcasting realm here on the Fight Game Network. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me back.
The band is back together. Impact
Woo!
Deep
That's
Cuts.
right.
Impact Deep Cuts.
Yeah, this is the original NWO of the Fight Game Media, Impact Empire that we got going on here. So let's go ahead and get in. Yeah,
3-man band.
Absolutely. So welcome back. This is our first time going live, so we're super excited about that. There's going to be no cuts, no nothing, man. We're going to go live, straightforward, balls to the wall. So let's just get right into it. We had a pretty historic pay-per-view tonight. They've already said it. Jonathan Snowden and Brian Alvarez are already all over Twitter. They said that industry insiders were saying that this is the hottest selling pay-per-view that Impact had in a very long time. They already beat the Slammiversary numbers from last year. So let's go ahead and get your overall thoughts on the show. Go ahead, JD. What did you think of the overall show?
I'll give it a solid B.
Good.
Like it was a B. Like I love the main event. I liked a lot of it, but there was just a couple times. There was some stuff that I just was like, this didn't quite hit the mark. I really think they had to hit a home run or at least a triple, and I really think we kind of got like a seeing eye single tonight.
Nice. So what about you, Jeremy?
I would agree with the B. I kind of felt that it was a one-match show when the show was over. I didn't have that feeling going into it, and I'm not 100% sure that all the matches lived up to my expectations, but I'm not sure if my expectations were too much going into the show.
Yeah, so I agree. I thought that this was a one-match show going into it, so I expected that to be the one match that everybody's going to be talking about when the show's over. They very much built up the main event as being the big match. In fact, their Rebellion documentary that they aired on Tuesday night was only about the main event. So I knew going into it that they were building it up. And the way Impact does things is they will have a few good matches on the undercard, but they're not going to do too much. They're going to save everything for the main event. They're going to save all the drama for the main event. It's kind of an old school style booking, like Don Callis would probably say, it's a Vern Gagne way to do things where, you're going to have a lot of under matches, but none of them are going to compare to the main event because they want to send everybody home happy. And I feel like if you came in looking for a good main event tonight, I think you got a great one out of Kenny Omega and Rich Swann. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and get into it. So, Kenny Omega makes history. He has 4 title belts. He has 3 titles, if that makes sense, because the Impact title and Moose's fake TNA title was on the line as well too. And he also is now the AAA Mega Champion. What are your overall thoughts on the match, and were you surprised by the outcome of the match? Let's start with JD.
No, not at all. Not surprised by the outcome. We all saw this coming the moment Don Callis said, "Tune into Impact." Some of us thought it might be coming even sooner. But I really think that I think the match was really good. I thought, other than it's slip up on the ropes at one point, I really thought the match was really good. I don't mind a little bit. People are like, "Oh, that's a botch." I mean, I don't mind if things look a little sloppy from here and there, because it makes it look a little bit more real to me. It makes it look like it's a struggle. Not everything should be, crisp every time. Some things should look a little ugly from time to time. And I liked the finish. I liked the fake finish sequence where we had the ref bump, and we all assumed. Remember, I was the guy on the show who said, I don't know, I smell shenanigans. What a great fake out. That was really good booking. I liked this match a lot. I think Rich Swann stepped up and really showed that he is a main event talent. Right? I think it was a great match. I enjoyed it. It was far and away the best thing on the show.
Absolutely. Jeremy, what about you?
I was wondering if at one point we were going to get a V-trigger counter going into that match. The amount of V-triggers that Rich Swann took was pretty amazing. Amazing would be the word I would also describe to the match. I don't know if it was my favorite Kenny Omega non-AEW match in the recent memory, but it was a great effort. It was a great representation of what Impact Wrestling has to offer, and it made the titles feel like they were consequential in the greater wrestling world, which ultimately was the goal. It was to elevate these titles and to make them feel more important. And if that was the goal, they succeeded, because we walked away feeling like, wow, this was a big deal.
Yeah, no, it very much was a big deal, and I agree with you guys. I thought the main event absolutely delivered. I don't think it's 5 stars. It's not going to get the 5-star. I did see some people going 4 stars on it, which stars are all bullshit. It's all subjective anyway. I was going to go 4.5 on it if I even did give a star rating. I was going to go right in that 4.5 range. So I think that if you're 4.5, you're it's a safe bet that most people are going to be pretty close to that with the match. Rich Swann is Ricky Morton, right? He is the Ricky Morton. He is the heavyweight champion version of Ricky Morton. He is sell, and make you build up to the finish, make you believe you might have a chance. And then on this one, Kenny Omega was just the better man. He was able to get the victory. My 2 critiques of the match, and I'm with you, JD. I absolutely loved the Aubrey Edwards swerve. I thought that was fantastic, because everybody in my mentions, there was like, I posted a link, and I posted our show on Reddit, and a lot of people were like, we think this is going to be a screw job. It's going to be a screw job. And I'm like, I really don't think there's going to be a screw job. And everybody saw it coming, and the way that they were able to swerve that and reverse it. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I also like the fact that Brian Hebner didn't sell that move for like 20 minutes. Yeah, like you would normally see when a ref gets hurt in a match. They're down forever, right?
They got shot in the chest, and they drop and they're bleeding out. Yeah, it's totally.
Yeah.
I like this. I like that. I like that it subverts that we've had such a large trope in the genre for such a long time with these ref bumps and these screw jobs that we saw coming, and we all thought we sniffed it out. Like, yeah, here it comes. I saw even like Trevor Dame on Twitter was like, "Oh, the ref bump, here it is," and it didn't end it. I'm like, "Oh, that was real smart." Yeah. Like. Real kudos to them. That real smart.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to call them botches, but I feel like calling them whiffs would be a little bit better of like the move. And I think the thing that I appreciated about it was Kenny went down, and I wasn't sure if he was legitimately hurt or if it was a really good sell job. But the psychology of watching Kenny in that moment where you're almost thinking beyond the match, like, oh no, he's really hurt. There goes like months and months potentially of planning with this thing. That was the part that got me when that happened. It was like just thinking about long term, like, oh no, like the backbone of pro wrestling for the next like the rest of the calendar year. Like, oh god.
He worked.
That was the big one.
That's what they do. Like, and that's why Kenny Omega is so good.
That was the worry for me.
Yeah, and that's why he's the best in the world. And I think, and then my other critique of the match, the slip up on the ropes, that stuff doesn't bother me at all. Like if you're a dork, that could probably bother you, right? Where like, oh well, I think that he slipped up on the rope, I'm taking away a star. Okay, cool, whatever. But I think that's cool. There's a going on, and not everything has to be smooth. If a fan tells me that their favorite wrestler and they describe him and they say, oh, he's smooth in the ring, I immediately don't care about them. I'm done. So make it look like a struggle. I thought that was pretty cool. My only critique, and it's my critique of Rich Swann, is I thought that he was gassed.
Really?
That was the impression that I got. Somebody else agreed with me. I could be completely wrong. He could have been working me, right? He could have been working me. I did think like halfway through the match that he was gassed. They had a really high pace, and there for a while he was not really kicking out of those moves. He's just kind of rolling his shoulder up. Again, could have been by design, but I thought that he was gassed out. But guess what? I watch UFC fights a lot, and a lot of those fighters get gassed out and they push through and they finish the match. So that's not even a big deal. But I did think that it slowed down a little bit there towards the end because he was gassed. But again, could be wrong.
See, I read that as he was taking a beating and he was struggling to survive. And when you're, if you've been in a combat sports situation, when you're tired, you just do that. You just barely move when you're tired. Like I read that as him acting like he was overwhelmed and about to get crushed. So, but you could be right. I might have just ran into it, but I totally agree with your dissertation on stars being overrated. I'm not a big star guy. I'm not even a really big work rate guy. I'm all about emotion. Like I want to get invested in a match, and this had me, man. This had me emotionally invested, and I'm with you. I'm gonna go back and watch those to see if I think he was gassed. That's a very interesting That's a very interesting idea. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And Rich Swann's matches are filled with drama, and I thought like they captured the drama, they captured the moment. I wish they had more points where we thought Rich was going to win. I didn't really get that out of this. There's Chuck. It's our boy Chuck. Yeah. He was saying that the Swan looked gas too. So, but yeah, I loved the match. Is what I'm trying to say.
Let me tie that together with the psychology of it too. Think about the fact that every single person in the video packages were telling Swan, you better not lose. You better dig deep. You better do everything in your power to not lose that title. So the psychology was there, set up ahead of time for him to know that like he's got to dig deep. He's got to do everything in his power. So maybe he was gassed, but on the other hand, it also played into the psychology that it doesn't matter if you're gassed. You got to keep going. You cannot lose this title. And it wasn't until he just could not move.
Man, Garrett's totally throwing me off with all these like cutaways. These are awesome. We've stepped up. I agree with everything you just said, Jeremy. I think we've worked ourselves into thinking good psychology is sitting on a rear chin lock for like 5 minutes and looking at the crowd, which case wouldn't even be there, instead of just telling a good story that makes sense. And the story was there. The story is written. And Mauro did a great job setting this up. He was so good. This is the best I've heard Mauro sound in years. Like Mauro really sold this idea of him being overwhelmed, right? Nobody really thought Rich had a chance, and they steered into that. They didn't try to convince us that Rich was the overwhelming favorite. They said Rich is the underdog the whole time, and I really felt like they worked it into the match as good as possible, right? And there weren't a whole lot of spots, too, I agree with you, where I felt like Rich Swann was going to win. Like, from the moment this match was set up, this felt like a foregone conclusion. But I bought into the drama enough that I was waiting for the big moment, right? Mm-hmm. So I think this worked really well. I really do.
Yeah. I think, with the main event, I thought Impact hit a home run with the main event. If we're just strictly talking that. And, they get to, for the first time in a very long time, probably since Kurt Angle and AJ Styles were in their prime, they get to say unequivocally that they have, probably one of the best wrestler, if not the best wrestler in the world, as their world champion, right?
Well, if you were listening to Matt Stryker, he had to make sure that he undercut Mauro Ranallo and say that, well, this is better than Suwama or who else? Bobby or Arush. Like, I was like, okay, you paid attention to one thing in the course of preparing for this event. Congratulations, Matt Stryker.
So let's be honest.
We don't.
Did you get hit with Stryker because he did bring up Suwama, and we all know that you don't like Suwama?
Oh, is that my thing? I'm the guy who doesn't like Suwama.
Yeah.
It's true. I am that guy. No, I just thought Matt Stryker really brought a part of my B is Matt Stryker. I thought he was awful tonight. And he stepped up a little bit in the main event because he was sitting next to Mauro freaking Ranallo. I agree with Chuck 100%.
Yeah.
When I tweeted this too, you pay Mauro whatever he wants to come in because the program felt bigger when Mauro was there. Like everything else felt like, and it's hard because of the pandemic and the environment, but it felt like we were watching an episode of Impact until we got to the main events.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So before we get to the rest of the card, I figured we'd focus more on the main event. I just want to get your guys' opinion. Now that Omega is the champion and he's pinned Swan twice, Moose lost in his last bout. Where do they go from here? Who is the next challenger for the Impact title?
Eddie Edwards.
Oh, perfect. Jeremy?
I could see Eddie Edwards. I'm more new to the show, so I was watching it, seeing like who could be the guy next, and I felt like Eddie Edwards was the guy. I also thought Trey Miguel stood out among everything else, even though the match was garbage. Like it was a plunder match. We will get to it. I thought he has potential and he has a look that could afford him more opportunities in the company if they wanted to go that route.
No, I think those are two very good choices. If I had to pick, Eddie Edwards is the guy that's probably going to sell some pay-per-views. He's Impact royalty.
I think we'll get a match with Willie Mack before, though. I think we'll get an Impact match, like an Impact television match with Willie Mack, because he's out there in the corner. I think you've got a natural story. We had the backstage scene a few weeks ago with Callis and Omega and Willie Mack and Rich Swann. So I think my assumption is we'll get a Willie Mack match that sets up the Eddie Edwards match. Yeah. Maybe it's Slammiversary.
Yeah, maybe. I think that's a great call, and I think that a lot of I think Impact is going for that hardcore fan, And I'm, JD is a genius when he says this. When he says "F the casuals," you lean into the hardcore fans, right? And you get the hardcore fans. Yeah, Omega at Slammiversary would be fantastic. And if and I agree with Chuck, if they're able to retain Moose and get him signed
for Glory,
signed to a longer deal, you build up Moose and you get him at Bound for Glory. I think that's a perfect call. All right, so we'll go ahead and steer away from that match. Let's go ahead and go into what I thought was surprisingly put into the co-main event slot. Deonna Purrazzo and Tenille Dashwood, which I felt was the coldest feud going into the show.
Yes.
I honestly thought this was match like number 2 quality, right?
Yes.
Like the second match on the show quality. So they definitely had a match. A match definitely occurred. And sure enough, Kimberly and Susan and Caleb with a K got involved. The wrestling wasn't bad. Like I thought as far as the wrestling was concerned, Tenille was a lot better than she's normally been lately because for the most part, I think she's just bored. She doesn't really seem like she wants to be there. Like, she's getting her impact checks and she's just traveling, right? Like that's her deal. So, but overall, I did not think this was a good match. And of course, the overdone, overbooked, run-in / distraction stuff on the outside always took me out of it. And then the finish was pretty flat. But, they did give us a little bit, not really a surprise. They said Taylor Wilde was coming in April and we're still in April. So we did get to see Taylor Wilde come out at the end. So I thought that was kind of cool. And it didn't exactly save the whole segment, but I thought it made it a little bit better.
2 things. 1, this match sucked. I hated it. They did a work. I believed that Rich Swann had a better chance of winning the AEW title than Tenille winning the Knockouts belt tonight. Right? There was nothing that convinced me of this. She looked better. She looked like she was interested in wrestling tonight. I think Deanna's great. I think she did a great job. The whole heel versus heel thing I think it's a tough sell in the US, right? Because it's harder to get invested, but it's harder to get invested in American-based heels, whereas in Japan, the heel thing works. This time, again, there wasn't a whole lot of juice behind this. Number 2, if you're going to sell me on Taylor Wilde being this punk rocker, you need to come out with something a little bit more punk rock looking than the outfit she came out in tonight.
Yeah.
That's a little Sailor Moonish to me. Like, I don't know.
I kind of thought that it was a spotlight match for Deonna Purrazzo, and Dashwood didn't really do what she needed to do to make her look good. You're right. Tenille's kind of there to be there, and she's a wrestler, and that's a place for her to go wrestle, but not much more beyond that. I said earlier that I thought that this match was going to be the ones that would exceed my expectations, and it did. But my expectations were not that high. I did not know what I was going to be getting with these matches. You got a relatively clean finish. You got a 5 to 10 minute match. It wasn't great, but for 2 professionals putting on a wrestling match, I didn't have any problems with it.
Yeah.
Check out how far Tenille's stock has fallen. 2 years ago, when she showed up in Ring of Honor, she was put into what was supposed to be the main event stable, the main event babyface stable, that lifeblood with Juice Robinson and Bandito and Finlay. And that whole thing just fizzled out almost immediately after it started. But she was the only woman in that whole thing. Like they had ideas for her and plans for her. Flash forward 2 years later, and she's in a very know-nothing title match that we were boggled that she won to begin with.
Yeah.
Right? Like her stock has fallen so much.
Yeah, definitely strikes me as an individual that hasn't done the work to maintain relevance and keep up with her contemporaries, and that's fine. But you're going to be bounced out with the level of talent that is available in the world right now.
Yeah, they gotta get some of that talent first, though.
Right. So I think her spot is secure because they ain't got a whole lot of other people. They did add Ellering and Taylor Wilde, and I agree. Nothing about Taylor Wilde looked punk rock. In fact, the song that she came out to, I think that was their attempt at punk rock. And then it sounded like some kids were talking in the background. And I was like looking around. I thought like some kids were playing outside. I didn't know that was them singing. I had no idea.
Is that what that was supposed to be?
Yeah.
That was supposed to be. Oh God!
Yes.
We've been calling her out on this. We've been saying for weeks. We're like, I want to see your Spotify list. I want to see what you're listening to. There better be some Rancid on there. No, just Rancid. It was just Rancid.
It was just Rancid, and then she comes out looking like Shirley Temple's big sister or something like that. Like, who cares? But the moves that she performed, I thought were decent. Yeah. So she had some fire, but just look, you're not punk. Sorry, Taylor, you don't get to be punk. I'm pulling the punk card. So
Is it weird that I kind of thought somebody else was going to come out with her since there were 3 of them and 1 of her? Like, there was a moment I was like, is that it? But I wasn't sure. Was that something that you guys got a vibe for at all?
No, the only thing that I thought was like, she sure is taking her time coming down there. Made sure to hit the music, and then she's posing on the ramp. And it's like, okay, and now let me get my pose in and let me get the camera look, and then that's WWE 101. Right?
I was complaining about that I was talking to John on the Twitter about it. I think it was last week when I didn't like it when Rhea Ripley did it. I like it less when Taylor Wilde is doing it. Let's not ape what they do. Let's you're going for the hardcore fan. Let's offer this all wrestling in general. Whatever WWE does, be different. Right?
Yes.
Don't be WWE light or WWE knockoff. Be Noah. They're at least doing stuff different, right?
Yeah.
Do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. Be absolutely. What is Larry saying? Sounds like the ending of Impact was a lot more exciting. Look,
Larry was all about the Oscars tonight, man. No wrestling.
Yeah,
Larry.
I have not watched the Oscars in 20 years. I don't care about the Oscars, but I'm glad people still do care. But if Fast and Furious 9's not getting an Oscar, I don't care. So,
you and Orange Cassidy.
To Larry.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and go to the next match on the card, which I thought should have been in the co-main event slot. It was Finn Juice and Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers. I was shocked at this. I thought that we were going to lead into a trilogy match. I thought the Good Brothers were going to win, but they did not. Finn Juice got the W here. A very cool surprise. Looks like they're going to be sticking around a lot longer. I hate to compare this match versus a different match, but their match of sacrifice I did think was better. But I still thought this was good, right? So if the match of sacrifice was like a 4-star match, however you want to call it, this one was probably 3.5, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. The sacrifice match was definitely better. I think part of it is I didn't expect as much from the sacrifice match, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was just going to be a match because I think the Good Brothers' work in the last 2 months has really stepped up. Right, the stuff on AEW, like Gallows is out there bumping for Phoenix like a maniac. Over the last couple of months, I really think they've stepped up, and part of that was that Finn Juice match. And this wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. I just thought the sacrifice match was better, and maybe that's because I had higher expectations for this one.
Yeah,
part of the sacrifice match was the surprise of them winning. We thought they'd be a one and done. They come in, and now when they're here and they have the next match, you think, oh, okay, they're doing their thing. They may drop the title, go back to New Japan. No, they're sticking around. I did like the Good Brothers having a lot of fire going into this match about, oh, hey, we've been cruising, going through this. You woke us up. We're coming back in. We're going to win this match. That was a good build for me. I kind of was surprised when the Good Brothers hit their finish and then didn't get the pin. I'm like, they're going to lose this match. Huh, okay. And then they lost to Queen of the Sheet, gave it a break, and then they showed out for the main event. And I was like, okay.
To be fair, it would not surprise me if the Good Brothers win these belts back at this next set of tapings, because it's not like we're going away from this rivalry, right?
No.
There's no one else there. The roster is so shallow that I think they did this just for the surprise. It wouldn't surprise because they're doing the tapings this week, right, Mike? For the next show.
Over the next 2 days, they'll be taping, and they'll be doing a month's worth of tapings over the next 2 days.
So it would not surprise me if Finn Juice drops those belts in the next 2 days.
They could jump them in an early taping and then do the match at one of the last tapings and then draw it out for the month.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, they can't go on to new opponents because there's no such thing in Impact. I thought Decay would have been the next opponents, but again, they got
squashed them quick.
Yeah, they got beat rather quickly this week, and so I was like, okay, well, there goes Decay's shot at the title. So maybe they introduce a new team. I'm not even going to bring up God anymore because I just don't think that's happening. I think that ship has sailed. So we shall see. So the next match on the show, which was I guess a polarizing match on social media. I try not to read during the match, but after the match, I like to go back and scroll through comments, see what people thought. But Trey Miguel versus Sammy Callahan in a last man standing match. I personally thought the wrestlers in the ring were great, and the wrestlers outside of the ring were great. I thought Matt Striker was a complete disaster, and I'm not a guy that has any issue with Matt Striker. For the most part, he doesn't bother me. I know people like to really read into what the announcers are saying. There's people out there that don't think Joe Buck is good, right? Like we do have those people in the world. Like that doesn't bother me. Like I'm not bothered by Joe Buck. I'm not bothered by Matt Stryker. Obviously different levels, but that was just an example. Some people are really, really bothered by Matt Stryker. So, but in this one, that was the first time in a long time where he really bugged me. And there was a spot where, I thought it was a really cool spot where Sammy Callahan had Trey Miguel trapped under the ring steps, and I've never seen that before. I'm like, how the hell is he going to get out of this one? And turns out he was small enough to escape underneath, go through the ring.
Wild.
Come out, and then Matt Stryker goes, Sammy Callahan, you silly, silly man, or something like that, and I was just like, what the heck are you doing?
So what you're saying, Mike, is you didn't like his call of the finish.
Yes. Yes.
It was one of the most, it was super inventive. I thought Sammy was going to win that match by literally sitting on top of the stairs and pinning Trey. Like, this is genius. And Trey's escape was great. I loved it. He did the flying cutter through the table. I'm like, this is cool. And then I heard that, you silly, silly man. And I'm not an anti-Matt Stryker guy. I usually can put up with him, but I thought he was awful. And this is the one call that I was like, this is the finish. Like, you can't ever, like, show me some emotion. Like, you don't got to be Morrow, but you just got to, like, get a little excited, right? Like, like take it like a little seriously. Like, make this. These guys are killing each other. This was a brutal match, no blood, but they were trying to. They stuck a wrench. Like Sammy stuck a wrench in his mouth. They did some nasty stuff to each other, and I just didn't feel the commentary matched the tone at all. I was really disappointed in Stryker in this one.
I couldn't believe there was no blood, number one, and I couldn't believe that table didn't break when they went down off of it. Both of those times, like the amount of pain that they didn't mean to inflict on each other felt like more pain than the actual stuff that they did to each other. With that said, I'm not a big Sammy Callahan fan. I haven't been for a long time. He worked in this match. I don't care for him, but I'll give him the respect. They put the work in. It was a fine match. It wasn't the best plunder match I've ever seen, but again, it exceeded my expectations.
Yeah. So I guess I'm different. I know people don't like Sammy Callahan, but I've always liked him. And what the one match that got me back into Impact for good, really, because I quit watching Impact for a good 5 years. It was his match with Pentagon Jr. at Slammiversary 2018. I thought that was just a hellaciously awesome match, and they really went for it. But that was the match that really got me hooked in. And then his matches with Tessa Blanchard I thought were fantastic too. So, and I'm not a intergender wrestling fan. That's not really my deal. But hey, we got a question from Larry. Let's see. Is this the best that David Finlay has ever looked? I think David Finlay is on a roll right now. He looked a lot better in the New Japan Cup recently, but the role that he's on 2021, I think, is David Finlay's best year in pro wrestling that I personally have ever seen. And I've been able to watch a lot of his matches this year. And I thought he looked fantastic in this tag match tonight. Yeah,
I agree. David Finlay over the last probably 8 to 9 months has really elevated his game. I liked all the stuff he did on Strong. I've liked the stuff he did in was it the Cup or the Best Super Series? I forget whichever tournament he was in. But he looked really good. Yeah, he was in the Cup. Yeah, he looked really good in that. Him and Juice have been a really good tag team this time around. Since coming back, I've enjoyed everything David Finlay has done recently. I think he's stepped up. And I think when you showcase a New Japan talent with this Impact talent, you really see just how good he is. Because when you're around New Japan guys, you kind of take it for granted how good they all are, and then you see how good David Finlay is when he's around guys like Hawkins and Myers who aren't as good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely a guy that he had a shoulder injury maybe a year and a half ago, and he missed a lot of time, and he came back, and he was a new wrestler with a new mission and a new objective when he came back. He didn't want to miss any more time, and he wasn't going to waste the time that he lost. So
and he's in shape.
To him. He got, looked great.
And he's in shape, and that was one of my critiques about him early in his career was he wasn't in great shape. So we'll go ahead and go to the Knockouts Tag Team title match. That was next. We had Fire and Flava versus Rachel Ellering and Jordan Grace. I was surprised by this because once Jazz came out with Ellering and Grace, I honestly thought the Jazz was turning on them and joining with Fire and Flava because I thought that would be kind of a cool deal to see those three together. But like we accurately predicted on Brace for Impact this week, Ellering and Grace got the victory here. So what did you guys think of the match, and what do you think about Ellering and Grace as a tag team?
I thought that they were probably one of the weakest acts on the show, the Ellering and Grace. I liked the match because they did work hard and they tried to tell a story, but I was really thrown off when they made such a point to give Ellering the win almost single-handedly. And I just didn't feel like she was a wrestler or personality or a talent that kind of deserved to get a single spotlight win over an established tag team champions of Impact.
Yeah, they put her over strong, and I think that I don't know if she's ready yet. For someone who's been in the ring for 5 years, she looks choppy with a lot of what she does. And I don't know if self-confident is the word I would use, or self-conscious, excuse me, is the word I would use. But there just seems to be like there's like a lack of authority when she does a lot of things to me. Like, I don't know. Like they put her over really strong, and it makes me wonder about Jordan. Not assertive, Jeremy. I like that. Yes. It makes me wonder about Jordan Grace's future because we don't know if she's resigned or not yet. And they seem to go out of their way to make Rachel look like the star.
Yeah. No, so I think they're going to be a good tag team. What I thought about Rachel Ellering was that I thought she has a great look, and I like that she's just big and strong. But I also could tell that she hadn't been in the ring in a year. I thought that was pretty evident. I think she had the one AEW match last summer, but we haven't really seen her since then. So, probably could use some more ring time. There's a little bit of ring rust. But I do think this is going to be kind of a cool team. I think they're a cool looking team. I like to see, these powerful women be a tag team, and we'll see what happens going forward. So our next match, I want to breeze through these next matches. We had the match that I forgot was even happening. Brian Myers and Mid Cardona. They had a match. It was kind of an angle. It started off as a match, and then they did an injury angle, and then to where the referees were thinking about stopping the match because Cardona's knee was a little bit hurt. And then all of a sudden, if you hit your opponent, then they don't stop the match anymore. They just let you go, apparently. I guess that's the rules of pro wrestling. So Myers ended up getting the victory with his clothesline. So thoughts?
I hated this match.
Yeah.
These are guys that came through the WWE system that should be a lot better than they are, and I'm constantly watching guys who come up outside the system that are just better. And I like Brian Myers normally, but I just didn't like this. What happened to his patch?
Yeah, he can see. It's a miracle. He has been healed.
He's been wearing a patch.
He took it off.
Well, yeah,
he took it off. He had a promo on the last show, and he's like, "Hey, look, I got it off. I'm ready to go."
I forgot about that. That's how forgettable this whole thing has been, especially because we did this with Moxley a year ago, and it was actually interesting when they did it. But I don't know. This does absolutely nothing for me. I didn't think the match was good. I thought it was actively bad in parts. Not a fan.
This kind of felt like these two guys, when they were at the beginning of their career at WWE, thought about the feud that they were going to have one day, watching all these mid-card WWE feuds at the beginning of their careers. Like, one day we're going to have a match just like that. And they went out and had a match just like that in 2021 on an Impact pay-per-view.
Yeah, so sometimes really good friends aren't very good opponents. Because I thought in their singles work lately, away from each other, I thought they've been pretty good, especially Brian Myers. And then I think that Cardona had a really good match with Sammy Callahan this past week. One of the better matches I've ever seen him have. Tonight, not good at all. Oh, cool. Ryan Fredrickson is in. So he is a famous guy. He gets his tweets up on UFC all the time, and now he gets his comments up on YouTube. So that's really cool.
I feel bona fide.
Yeah. Now we just need Paul Fontaine, and then we're really into it, man. We'll be UFC level, I think. But sorry. So we'll go on to the next match. We had the 8-man tag. We had Violent by Design taking on Eddie Edwards, Willie Mack, Chris Sabin, and James Storm, my favorite. I can't believe I almost forgot his name. James Storm. Sorry, I don't have anything written down. I'm just going off of memory. And then Violent by Design. Obviously, Eric Young has a 20 ACL. He's out 6 to 9 months, and they brought back W. Morrissey. So first, W. Morrissey. Okay, we didn't want him to be called Kaz XL. So
that's a terrible name. We asked for this. This is our fault.
Yes. So they went with W. Morrissey. So I get why they're not just calling him Morrissey, because they'll think he's a whiny retro 80s dude from the Smiths or whatever they're called, right? I don't think they want to be him being a whiny, complaining musician. So they went with W. Morrissey. His name is William. Is it too much to call him Will? What thoughts?
Okay, William Morris is an agency. Maybe that's why.
Maybe.
The other thought, Morrissey got a little bit of acclaim last week when The Simpsons made fun of him, and he had an absolute fit about it on social media. So I was kind of like, well, this is strangely ironic that you went with this, because now everyone's going to make Morrissey jokes about him. Like, W. Morrissey, it's not good. I mean, it is his name, but Will Morrissey would have been fine.
Perfect.
Like, the W, is he a law firm? Like, I
guess I don't know. I thought, but what I must say though is I thought he looked great.
He did,
just shredded. And then in the ring, there was one spot in the match where he was kind of like, maybe he's not ready yet, but then he just turned it back on. So I thought for the most part, I thought he hit a home run, and I thought that they were building him up to be like a main event monster guy for the thing. And my only critique is that my favorite Joe Doring got hardly any shine whatsoever in the match, and they were making Morrissey look bigger than Joe Doring. But what did you think of Finestone?
Mike, if I didn't think that you would have kicked me off of the show right away when you asked who I thought would be a great challenger to Kenny Omega, I would have said Morrissey. That guy looks great. No, he looked really, really good. He looked like a main event star, even as the way he is. I think I saw Alvarez online say he just looks like a giant version of Edge right now, and that is pretty accurate. I want him to take this opportunity of getting his act together and show everyone what he can do. This is a great place for him to get a start over and roll through the roster and do everything that he needs to do. And I'm happy for him. He looked great in this match. I don't know if the original intention was to spotlight him in the match the way that they did and put the match over the way that they did, but it was the right call once he came in. He looked great.
Yeah, I like this. I like this match. I think getting behind, I always want to call him Cass, getting behind Morrissey, that sounds so weird, is the right move right now, because he has a superstar look. He's in that ring and he looks enormous, right? He's dwarfing people. His work looked pretty good. I liked his new finish. Like, that looked great. I did like the little bit of a callback spot to why he got in trouble in WWE, beating up. Who did he pin at? I forget who he pinned after, but he just kept beating him up after the bell. Of course, that's why he got in trouble.
It was a little person.
It was a little person, but I can't remember who he pinned. I can't remember who he pinned in the match, but they kind of reenacted that. It's a little inside baseball, but they didn't steer into it. Like, if you know, you know. And I like Impact. Like you said before, I like Impact appealing to the hardcores because that's who's watching right now.
I will tell you this: when he did the stand-up against Willie Mack, and it was just Morrissey and Mack, and he just made Mack look like just the tiniest person in the world. That was a stunning moment. They had a good shot of that. Yeah. They made him look big.
And then overall, I thought this was a really good match. And I thought, I don't know that I like Morrissey as a baby or as a heel. I think he's a baby face, given his story, and they can lead into that stuff. So I think that's happening. I could see that they're going to go a different route. I don't think he's a member of Violent by Design. They even introduced him with his own music, and they called him a hired gun. I think that was for a reason. So I don't think he's sticking around with that group. But I thought this was a really good match. My only critique, and this is just something that I hate, is that they were on the outside. This is me becoming Jim Ross, and they were hitting each other on the outside, and they were looking up, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to suplex somebody off of the top rope. And I was just like, could you guys pretend for a second that you don't see this happening? My only critique, but everybody in the match is great, and I thought this was a fun match, and really a cool way to start the show off, a 1-2 punch, because the opening of the show with the triple threat match for the X Division title, if the main event was 4.5 stars, whatever you guys want to call it, this one was right there. It didn't have the drama that the main event had. I think it was, you can rate it differently, but I thought the opening match was fantastic, and I was pleasantly surprised with Josh Alexander becoming the X Division champion.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I said, and when you asked me for this match, what I thought, I said the head says Ace Austin, the heart says Josh Alexander, and I'm glad the heart won out because I love Josh Alexander. He's great. I think this match really kind of stands up with those great which we see so many of them, but there's a lot of really good like X Division multi-man matches, and this is definitely one of the better ones that we've seen in a while. Actually, like the work was really good, and I like the story. Josh Alexander got added to this late, but he's so damn likable that I think it works.
Yeah.
I didn't know a whole lot about Josh Alexander going into my foray into Impact. Coming out of it, he's one of the guys I look forward to most in seeing. He's got a bright future, and the look is unique. Even my wife was asking about him, was like, what's the deal with him? Like, honestly, I don't know, but I'm going to learn more. He's caught my eye a bit in this match. So kudos to him.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's been great for a long time. He was in a tag team with Ethan Page, and obviously now Ethan Page is a YouTube wrestler for AEW now, and he's doing stuff over there. I think him and Scorpio Sky are a tag team now, and so and you know they were a really great tag team. They were one of the top tag teams, you know, in the world at the time that they were the champions, and then you know, Page, his contract came up, and he's with AEW now, so. Alexander's branching out on his own. He's been around for 16 years and has been on the Canadian independents for a long time. And he was almost out of wrestling for a while. He actually broke his neck and he had surgery and was out for a long time. And now he's really finally getting the chance to show what he can do. And boy, he showed out tonight. I thought he looked great.
I agree. He wears headgear. How can you not love him?
Yeah.
Man wears wrestling headgear. I love him.
Yeah.
Great.
And he does the ankle lock, and he has badass suplexes. And then I think his J Driller, you know, I don't know if it's an homage to Kenny Omega or, you know, I think he does a fantastic version of that. And look, let's not take anything away from his opponents. You know, Ace Austin, I think is, you know, one of the next big things. And I don't know how long this thing with Omega is going to last. But I'll be damned if they don't get to Omega and Ace Austin, at least even on a TV match, they got to get to that match at some point, because that thing would just tear the freaking house down. Because, you know, Ace Austin, he's only 24 years old, and he is that next guy coming up that people are going to be talking about for a long time.
Yeah, he's really good, man. I'm a big fan. I liked him when he was doing stuff with MLW. I think he's a much better fit here in Impact. They actually are pushing him. You know, MLW just had him as a guy. And he's I like him. I like the package with him and Fulton. I think he was a pretty good X Division champion. I'm curious to see when we get Chris Bay back where things go from here, because I do want to see Josh Alexander and Chris Bay. You know, I think there's good stuff there.
A lot of talent in that match. Good match. I wasn't sure it would be the best match of the show, but it gave the best match of the show a run for its money.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, I think we covered all the matches, and I think we got to some YouTube comments today, so that was really cool. Thank you everybody for jumping on with us today and hanging out. You can catch us every single week, every single Thursday night, Friday morning on the Fight Game Media Patreon. You go to patreon.com/fightgamemedia, and you'll get to hear me and JD every single week. We do deep dives into Impact, and you know, we're one of the very few podcasts out there, and I really can't think of any other ones that's not just Impact specific, right? We're not just an Impact fan podcast. We're like, you know, kind of media-ish guys that cover Impact, and we do a deep dive every single week. I do a column every week on fightgamemedia.com called Brace for Impact, where I cover all the news going on with Impact. They have a top story, and then I actually go into a deep dive into the review, and then the night before, me and JD, boom, every single week going segment by segment, talking about all things Impact. We talk about the news. We do it all. So if you're an Impact fan and you want a place to chill and come hang out, it's $2.99 a month. Like I say, you know, this is what I want you to do when you're at the grocery store tomorrow, right? And you go to checkout, and a thing will pop up on the screen on that card reader there, and it'll say, do you want to make a donation to like feed pets or feed the hungry, yada, yada, yada. And it'll say $1, $3, $5, right? What I want you to do is save that money and give it to us. Support your favorite podcasters, support your favorite Impact podcasters. Give it to us for just 1 month. Get them on the next go around. We could use it too. I got a kid. JD's got a kid. We're going to have to pay for college one day. So help us out.
I have dogs.
Yeah. Well, hey, dogs need to eat too, brother. Dogs need to eat too. So, you know, go ahead. Drop us some $2.99. Plus, like I said, we got Ryan Frederick who chimed in earlier. He's on the network. We got, you know, Parker Klein and Paul Fontaine. We got the Two Jabronis podcast. We got Robert freaking Silva, the greatest expert in boxing out there right now, along with Carlos Toro, do some boxing stuff with us. We got, you know, JD, what is your show?
Do High Tension with Justin Nipper, where we talk about the best going on in Japan.
Yeah, absolutely. So we cover all kinds of Japanese stuff. And then and Justin Nippert, he has another Japanese podcast. And then, of course, our boss, Garrett and John, they actually will do 1997 Retro Raw reviews every single week. So come on with us. $2.99 gets you in the door. What were you going to say, JD?
No, I was going to say Justin and Fumi, the great Fumi Saito.
That's right.
Write that down.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got the Two Jabroni podcast as well. We also do monthly book club chats with famous authors. We've done Brian Alvarez, Dave Meltzer. We're doing John Arezzi next week. And we've also done Bill Hagstock, if we promised you a great main event.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the great, everybody's favorite uncle, Dave Meltzer, comes in and chops it up with us and does a Q&A for Patreon subscribers. So come on in, hang out with us. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, give us a like, review, and a share. Tell all your friends about us. But other than that, hey, I got nothing else. My Twitter handle is @GetUpMike. JD, what's yours?
@JD_Oliva.
And Jeremy?
@Jer Finestone.
All right, and then go follow @Fight Game Media. Give us a follow, guys. Thank you for listening. Bye.